Had humanity truly understood the enemy it had chosen to confront? As Commander Jarek Kalin stood before the roaring throng aboard the flagship Starbreaker, his triumphant words echoed through the cavernous command deck. The air was thick with the scent of victory, the kind that had eluded the human race for decades. They had finally declared war against the enigmatic Zarathans, a species shrouded in mystery and deemed a lethal threat. Yet, in that very moment of celebration, the ship's sensors emitted a chilling alert, shattering the euphoria like glass. What happened next was neither predicted nor desired. Instead of chaotic aggression, the Zarathans, illuminated by the glow of distant stars, exhibited a synchronized response, one of defensive posturing and unexpected cooperation. The crew's jubilant cheers froze as disbelief rippled through the ranks. Kalin, the man who had rallied the fleet, suddenly found himself grappling with an unsettling truth. The enemy was not the mindless aggressor he had envisioned. For generations, the galaxy had sat on the precipice of war, with the Outer Rim territories simmering in tension. Nestled among the stars of the Milky Way, the human colonies had united under Kalin's leadership, driven by fear and the urgent desire for survival. They had fortified their defenses, meticulously crafted strategies, and developed advanced technologies to combat the perceived Zarathan threat. Yet, while Kalin stood there in the command center, surrounded by holographic displays and a cadre of generals, the very foundation of their mission began to tremble. As the ship glided through the void, whispers of dread spread like wildfire. Hidden within the archives of the Starbreaker were disturbing revelations, classified documents that suggested the Zarathan's signals of aggression might have been a ruse, an orchestrated deception by an unseen hand. The implications were staggering, a web of manipulation that ensnared both sides in a conflict that threatened to spiral out of control. Jarek Kalin's mind raced back to his childhood on the bustling streets of Karathis, where the echoes of laughter mingled with the hum of commerce. But those memories were tainted by shadows. His family had been lost to the war, victims of a conflict ignited by fear and misunderstanding, driven by a deep-seated desire to protect others from his fate. He had vowed to lead humanity to safety, believing that vigilance was the only path to peace. Yet now, as the weight of the situation pressed upon him, he questioned whether that resolve had led them to a new, darker fate. As the Starbreaker drifted silently among the stars, the atmosphere thickened with tension. The crew, once buoyed by the thrill of impending battle, now exchanged anxious glances, their excitement giving way to apprehension. What if the true enemy lay not within the Zarathan ranks, but in the shadows behind the curtains of their own command? And just when they thought they could grapple with the truth, a sudden surge of energy rippled through the ship. The lights flickered ominously, casting long, wavering shadows along the metal walls. Alarms blared and an unsettling chill filled the air. But when night fell, something inexplicable happened. As the Starbreaker drifted silently through the void, Commander Jarek Kalin felt the atmosphere thickening with an unsettling tension. The alarms blared like sirens in the night, slicing through the murmurs of confusion and dread that had begun to envelop the command deck. He could see the worry etched on the faces of his crew, their eyes wide, reflecting the stark red of the emergency lights. Panic was a violent storm threatening to break loose, and Kalin knew he had to act quickly. "Status report," he barked, his voice rising above the din. The ship's first officer, Lieutenant Mara Lynx, was already at her console, her fingers dancing over the controls, but her brow was furrowed with concentration. "Sir, we've lost power to the aft. Thrusters and our navigational systems are—" She hesitated, glancing at Kalin. "They're not responding. It's as if someone's overriding our systems." The implications of her words settled heavily in the room. If the enemy could manipulate their ship, they were no longer just facing the Zarathans. They were battling an unseen force intent on their destruction. The lights flickered again, and Kalen felt a cold sweat trickle down his spine. "Divert all power to the main shield," Kalen commanded, his mind racing with the realization that they were not prepared for this kind of fight. He turned to the crew, his heart pounding in his chest. "We need to find out what is happening, gather the engineering team and secure the ship." As they scrambled into action, Kalen's thoughts drifted to his past. Memories of loss and pain surged within him, the faces of his family flashing before his eyes. They had perished in the chaos of war, and now, standing on the brink of another conflict, he was haunted by the fear of repeating history. His resolve to protect the crew, to shield them from the horrors he had endured, weighed heavily on his shoulders. "Commander," Lynx's voice broke through his thoughts, drawing his attention back to the present. "I'm detecting strange energy readings from the forward observation deck. They're fluctuating in a pattern, almost like a signal." Kalen's heart raced. A signal? From whom? He turned to Ensign Rhea Talon, a brilliant but impulsive young officer who was known for her uncanny intuition. "Rhea, what do you make of this?" Rhea's fingers flew over her console, her expression shifting from confusion to determination. "It's not Zarathan technology, sir. It's something else, something more advanced. I think they're trying to communicate. But why now? Why during a moment of vulnerability?" Kalen's frustration boiled over. He had spent years preparing for this war, molding his crew into a formidable force, only to find themselves ensnared by a greater mystery. He could feel the weight of their expectations pressing down on him, the fear of failure gnawing at his resolve. "Maybe they're trying to warn us," Rhea suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. "Or maybe they want to negotiate." "Negotiate?" Kalen scoffed, his anger flaring. "After everything we faced, do you really think they'd want to talk?" As silence fell over the command deck, the tension was palpable. Kalen's frustration morphed into something more profound, an internal struggle between his desire for retribution and a gnawing doubt about whether they had truly understood their enemy. He turned to Lynx, desperation creeping into his voice. "We need to know more. If this is a trap, we can't afford to walk blindly into it." Just then a voice broke through the comms, static crackling before settling into clarity. "Commander Kalen, this is Captain Elysia Vance of the Zarathan fleet. We need to talk." Kalen's breath hitched. The enemy stood before him, but this time, the stakes were higher than he had ever anticipated. As he prepared to respond, he felt a surge of conflict within himself. Should he trust the word of the enemy? Or was this yet another trick in a game that had already claimed many lives? As he grappled with the weight of that decision, shadows shifted in the corners of his mind, and the specter of a deeper threat loomed ever closer. The lines between enemy and ally blurred, and Kalen knew they had stumbled upon something far more dangerous than war itself, a truth that could either save or doom them all. As Commander Jarek, Kalen stood at the precipice of an impossible decision. The low hum of the ship morphed into a dissonant chorus that echoed his inner turmoil. The voice of Captain Elysia Vance crackled in his ears, sending a shiver down his spine as he grappled with the implications of her message. "Pasiku, this a genuine overture or a cruel manipulation meant to ensnare him and his crew?" Before he could respond, the ship shuddered violently, throwing crew members against their stations. "Report!" Kalen shouted, regaining his balance as alarms blared anew. "Sir," Lynx shouted over the cacophony, "we're experiencing a systems malfunction across multiple sectors. It's like something is interfering with our systems from the inside." Kalen's breath caught in his throat. The thought of an enemy infiltrating their ship ignited a primal fear within him. He glanced at Rhea, whose face had drained of color. "What's happening?" he demanded, urgency lacing his tone. "I don't know, Commander," Rhea replied, shaking her head as her fingers flew across the console. "It's as if the ship is responding to something, or someone. It's almost sentient." As Kalen processed her words, memories of his childhood surfaced, creeping into his thoughts like shadows. He had once believed in the benevolence of technology, nurtured by his father's tales of ships that could think and feel. But those memories were tainted by the war that took everything from him. The ghosts of his past whispered warnings, reminding him of the betrayal he had faced, the families torn apart by false promises. "Commander, a new signal is coming through," Rhea said, her voice shaking. "It's not just from the Zarathans. There's an unknown source, and it's broadcasting on a frequency I've never seen before." "Can you trace it?" Kalen asked, the urgency in his voice rising. "I'm trying, but it's like chasing smoke." "It's everywhere and nowhere," she replied, panic creeping into her tone. Suddenly, the room filled with a chilling voice echoing through the comms. "Kalen, you have to listen. They are coming for you. They know your weaknesses, your past. You cannot trust anyone, not even yourself." The message sent a jolt through Kalen, and he felt the walls of his sanity begin to fracture. Memories of his family, the fateful day he lost them in the chaos of battle, flooded back with vivid clarity. Was this an echo of his past, haunting him, or an actual warning from an unknown source? The weight of his guilt strained against him, mingling with a growing paranoia. "Commander, are you all right?" Lynx asked, concern knitting her brows. "No," Kalen shouted, his voice raw. "This isn't just about the Zarathans. There's something more at play here, something I might have unwittingly provoked." Before he could elaborate, Rhea's console erupted in a series of rapid alerts. "The energy fluctuations are intensifying. It's like a pulse, and it's..." She paused, her wide eyes reflecting fear. "It's syncing with our heartbeats." The realization hit Kalen like a physical blow. They were not just fighting an external enemy. They were entangled in a web of manipulation that preyed upon their deepest fears and traumas. It was as if the ship itself had become a conduit for their pain, amplifying their vulnerabilities. As the crew reeled, Kalen felt the weight of their collective turmoil settle upon him. He had to confront not only the enemy outside, but the monsters within. And as he faced the specter of his past, he realized that the true battle was only just beginning. "Rhea, redirect all power to the comms," he commanded, his voice steadying. "We're going to confront this entity head-on. We need answers, and we need them now." The crew exchanged tense glances, the gravity of the situation intensifying. Kalen could feel the storm brewing, a conflict that would unravel their very souls. As they prepared to face the unknown, he steeled himself for the truth that lay ahead, one that could shatter their reality and redefine their purpose in the cosmos. The ship's comms crackled with static, a dissonance that matched the chaos erupting within the crew. As Commander Jarek Kalen steadied himself, the pallor on Rhea's face deepened, and Lynx's hands shook at his station. They were on the brink of something monumental, and the air was thick with dread. "Redirecting power to comms," Rhea said, her fingers dancing across the console. "But I can't guarantee stability. This entity is..." "Just do it!" Kalen interrupted sharply, his voice echoing in the tense silence. The urgency of the moment drowned out his doubts. The crew needed a leader, not a haunted man trapped by his past. With a flicker, the ship's lights dimmed, and the hum transformed into a resonant pulse, synchronizing with the frantic beat of their hearts. "Connection established," Rhea reported, her voice steadier, though a tremor still lingered beneath. "Whoever you are, show yourself," Kalen called into the void, his voice a mixture of defiance and desperation. "We know you're here. Stop playing games." The response was immediate and chilling. The voice returned sharper, echoing with an otherworldly quality. "You think you can confront me? I am the manifestation of your fears, Kalen. I know you, your failures, your losses. I am your past made flesh." Kalen's heart raced as the specter of his family flickered to life before him, their faces twisted in anguish. "No!" he shouted, fighting against the memories that threatened to overwhelm him. "You're not real, you're just a trick. The voice taunted, a cruel laugh reverberating through the ship. "Look around you. Your crew is faltering, and you are losing control. This is your doing. You brought me here." Lynx stepped forward, his brow furrowed. "Commander, we need to focus. This isn't just a psychological attack. It's exploiting our fears. We have to fight back together. Kalen turned to him, his resolve hardening. You're right. We can't let it divide us. We must confront this as a team. Rhea nodded, her fingers flying over the console again. I'll amplify our combined frequencies. If we stand united, we can drown it out. The crew rallied around Kalen, their collective strength beginning to push back against the entity. Think of what we've overcome together, the battles we've fought, the sacrifices we've made, he urged, his voice rising with fervor. But the voice grew louder, more insistent. You think you can escape your past. You will always be haunted by it. You can't outrun your mistakes. Kalen closed his eyes, envisioning the faces of his fallen family. I don't need to outrun it. I need to embrace it. It's part of who I am, but it doesn't define me. As he spoke, a surge of energy coursed through the ship, ignited by the unity of their spirits. The lights flickered back to life, the pulse of the ship synchronizing with their resolve. Seizing the moment, Kalen raised his voice above the chaos. We are more than our past. We are a crew, a family. You may haunt us, but you do not control us. With that declaration, the ship trembled as the entity writhed against their combined will. The atmosphere shifted, a palpable tension crackling in the air. Now, Kalen shouted, let's finish this together. As the crew focused their energy, a blinding light enveloped the bridge, pushing back against the darkness. Kalen felt the weight of his fears lift, the specter of his past shrinking beneath the power of their unity. But in the heart of that brilliance, something stirred, an unforeseen presence that threatened to turn the tide once more. The battle was not yet over, and the true nature of their enemy loomed just beyond the horizon. The blinding light surged from the bridge, enveloping Kalen and his crew, pushing back against the entity that had preyed upon their fears. For a moment, the oppressive presence seemed to falter, its voice diminishing into a cacophony of disjointed whispers. Kalen could feel the weight of his burdens lifting, but the victory was shallow, tinged with uncertainty. As the brilliance faded, the bridge fell into a heavy silence, punctuated only by the soft beeping of the consoles. Rhea swayed, her hands trembling as she leaned against the console for support. I think we did it, she gasped, her voice hoarse but filled with relief. Kalen opened his eyes, scanning the bridge for signs of life. Lynx was slumped in, his chair sweat beading on his forehead, his expression a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. We held it off, he breathed, though his eyes darted nervously, as if expecting a resurgence of their tormentor. Yet, the entity was not entirely vanquished. As the crew began to catch their breath, a low hum resonated throughout the ship, a reminder that some forces were not easily dismissed. Kalen's heart sank as he recognized that the darkness had merely retreated, its presence still lurking in the shadows of their minds. Commander, Rhea said shakily, the ship's systems are stabilizing, but we've sustained damage. The shields are down, and we've lost propulsion. Kalen nodded, feeling the weight of leadership settle heavily on his shoulders. We need to assess the extent of the damage and get ourselves back on course. But first, he turned to his crew, searching their faces for signs of resolve. We need to talk about what just happened. This entity, this manifestation of our fears, has exposed our vulnerabilities. We can't let it fester. Lynx looked up, his brow furrowed. But what if it returns? It knows us now. It knows our weaknesses. Kalen's gaze hardened. We face it together again just as we did today. We'll find a way to confront it. But first, we need to heal from this. As the crew began to regroup, Kalen caught sight of Rhea, who had retreated to the edge of the bridge, her shoulders shaking. He approached her gently. Rhea, are you okay? She looked up, tears glistening in her eyes. I thought I could handle it, but it felt so real. The vulnerability in her voice struck a chord within him, a reminder that the battle had left scars deeper than the physical. Kalen placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. You did handle it. We all did. but we have to acknowledge that this experience has changed us. The hum in the ship grew louder, a haunting reminder of their unresolved struggle. Kalen's gaze drifted to the view screen, where a swirling mass of stars danced against the backdrop of space. There are mysteries here that we haven't begun to understand. We need to investigate why this entity chose us. In that moment, a flicker of light erupted beyond the view screen, a distant, pulsating energy that sent a shiver down Kalen's spine. It was unlike anything they had encountered before, an anomaly that beckoned them forward, promising more challenges and revelations. "Prepare a course for that energy source," Kalen commanded, a renewed fire igniting within him. "We're not done yet, not by a long shot." As the crew set to work, Kalen knew that the scars of their encounter would linger, both on his heart and the hearts of those he led. But he also understood that within those scars lay the potential for growth, for unity, and for facing the unknown together. And so, with their past still haunting them and new mysteries ahead, the crew of the Starlight Voyager plunged deeper into the cosmos, ready to confront whatever awaited them in the vast expanse of the universe. As the crew of the Starlight Voyager adjusted their course towards the pulsating energy source, a profound silence enveloped the bridge. Each member was lost in their thoughts, grappling with the shadows of their recent encounter. Kalen felt a flicker of hope amidst the uncertainty. They had faced their fears together and emerged stronger. Yet, beneath that strength lay a chilling realization. The entity had not merely fed off their fears, but had revealed deeper truths about their very nature. Suddenly, the ship jolted as a surge of energy rippled through the hull, illuminating the bridge with an eerie glow. Alarms blared and the view screen flickered, presenting an image that sent shivers down their spines, a vision of their deepest, hidden truths laid bare. Kalen saw himself not as the commander, but as a man haunted by self-doubt, a leader who often felt unworthy of his position. Ria's image morphed, revealing her struggle with guilt and a desire for redemption that had long been buried. Lynx, too, was not exempt. His fear of failure manifested as a monstrous shadow looming over him. "Commander!" Ria shouted, her voice trembling. "It's showing us everything we've hidden from ourselves." Kalen's heart raced. They had not just faced an external foe, but a mirror reflecting their innermost struggles. The realization struck him. The entity had uncovered truths they had long denied, the truths that could bind them together or tear them apart. In that moment, a choice lay before them. They could embrace these revelations, forging a stronger bond through their vulnerabilities, or allow the darkness to consume them once more. "We must confront this," Kalen declared, his voice steady. "We can't let fear dictate our lives any longer." As they prepared to face the pulsating energy source, the crew felt a renewed sense of purpose. The battle with their fears was far from over, but they now understood the importance of facing the truths hidden within. The entity had not just preyed on their weaknesses, it had revealed the very fabric of who they were. But as they steered into the depths of the unknown, the hum of the ship echoed ominously, a reminder that the darkness was still out there, waiting for its next chance to strike. "Remember," Kalen said, glancing at his crew, "the only way forward is together." And with that, they plunged into the energy's embrace, ready to unearth the revelations that awaited them, knowing that truth, no matter how painful, was the first step toward true freedom. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more stories like this. Share with your friends so they can also embark on this mystery-filled adventure. Leave a comment below telling us your favorite part or what kind of ending you'd like to see in a future story.